Welcome back. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the forecast for September 2025. We're going to break down the really complex weather patterns that are going to shape the rainfall across South India. So let's get right to it. The big question on everyone's mind is, what's the rain actually going to be like this month? To answer that, we first have to understand what's happening up in the atmosphere right now. Okay, so let's jump in by looking at the large-scale systems that are influencing India's weather at this very moment. This gives us the context for, well, everything else.
All right, so what's happening is this. A low-pressure area has pushed inland over Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. At the same time, you've got these really strong southwest winds just piling up over Gujarat and Rajasthan. And the result? All these systems are basically pulling moisture north, which is why North India is getting some heavy rain. But, and this is key for us, for the West Coast and the southern states, this means there's just less moisture available, and that means less rain, at least for now.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because we have to ask why these patterns are happening. To do that, we need to look at two massive global phenomena that kind of act like giant switches, turning our local weather on and off. So the first one is the Madden-Julian Oscillation, or the MJO. Just think of it as this massive, slow-moving pulse of clouds and rain that travels eastward right around the equator. When this pulse is over our region, it just supercharges the rainfall. But when it moves away, it creates what's called a suppression phase, leading to much drier conditions. It is an absolutely critical factor for our forecast. Okay, so the second driver is something called the equatorial Rossby wave. Now, if the MJO sets the stage by creating favorable wet or dry conditions, you can think of these Rossby waves as the triggers. They move in the opposite direction, westward, and they are absolutely essential for creating the atmospheric disturbances, like those low-pressure systems that actually generate the rain. So, the crucial question is, how will these two global drivers affect us, right here in the South, over the course of the next month? Let's move to a week-by-week timeline to really see how this is all going to play out. Let's break this down. In the first week, so right up until about the 9th, the MJO is focused on North India. That puts the South in a much quieter, drier phase. But here's the big turning point. From the 10th to the 16th, the action shifts over to the Bay of Bengal. You get both the MJO and Rossby waves involved, and that's when we're going to see rain start picking up, especially after the 9th. Now, later in the month, from the 17th to the 23rd, the MJO moves away, but we'll still see plenty of heat-driven pop-up thunderstorms inland. And finally, the month closes out with the official start of the southwest monsoon's withdrawal, which begins after the 24th as the MJO brings drier conditions back to the north. Okay, so that's the big picture for the entire month. But what about right now? Let's zoom right into the forecast for the next 24 hours across the southern states. First up, let's take a quick look at what's in store for Kerala and our neighbors over in Karnataka. For Kerala, the main focus of the rain is really going to be in the northern districts. As you move further south toward Idukki and Kollam, you can expect more moderate, kind of on and off showers. And over in Karnataka, it's a pretty similar story, with consistent moderate rain expected along the coast and in those key Kaveri Basin areas, while other parts will see more scattered activity. Now let's turn to Tamil Nadu. And this is a great example of just how varied the conditions can be, with some areas set for some pretty significant rain, while others will stay mostly cloudy. So where will the rain be most active? Well, we're seeing a really clear pattern right along the Western Ghats. So places like the Nilgiris, Valparai, and Thani are definitely on watch. But this activity also spreads eastward into the interior districts, including Dindigul and Madurai, and it even touches a few coastal spots like Cuddalore. Meanwhile, for a huge part of the state, including that industrial belt of Coimbatore, Erode, and Salem, the forecast is more for cloudy skies with just a chance of some light rain. And for those of you along the northern coast, including in Chennai, it really all comes down to the sea breeze. Its timing and strength will be the deciding factor for whether you see any evening showers. So, we've gone through a lot of data there. What are the 3 crucial takeaways you should remember for the month of September? Let's boil it all down. First, the action really picks up after September 9th. That's when we expect these heat-driven thunderstorms to really intensify across the south. Second, the southwest monsoon begins its long goodbye with that withdrawal process starting from North India after the 24th. And third, and this is a big one, the same global patterns that we've been talking about suggest that the onset of our main rainy season, the northeast monsoon, might actually be delayed this year. And that, of course, leaves us with the next big question that we're all going to be tracking. As one monsoon season ends, our attention naturally turns to the next. The potential delay of the northeast monsoon is the story to watch, and it really begs the question, when exactly will it begin? You can be sure we'll be keeping a very close eye on it.